Hey everyone, this is Chris and Sandy with the Chris and Sandy Show, where we get up close and personal, some amazing guests throughout the entertainment industry. And today, like I say on every episode, we got a great one for you. We got a legend. Who do we have?
We have Zoro the Drummer with us today. He's a legendary drummer whose beats have fueled the rhythms of icons like Lenny Kravitz, Bobby Brown, and Earth, Wind, and Fire's Philip Bailey.
And we're excited to have him on. So welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Hey, Chris and Sandy, great to be with you guys. How's it going today?
It's going really good. And yourself?
Good. I'm glad to be with you.
And we got a buddy of mine's on too. He named Square Tables. His name is actual Joe.
Yes. Hey, Joe.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. So let's get started on the book. Tell us a little bit about your book that you got coming out.
Okay, so I have a memoir that I've been working on writing for the past 15 years. It's called Maria's Scarf, a memoir of a mother's love, a son's perseverance, and dreaming big. So this has been sort of a lifelong vision to share this story. Most people know the front story of my life, that I've been a drummer for 40 years with Lenny Kravitz, Bobby Brown, New Edition, Frankie, Valli, and the Four Seasons, many people, but they don't know the backstory of how I got there. And so this memoir is really a tribute to my single immigrant mother who raised 7 children alone.
Oh, wow.
At one point, we lived in a 1962 Chevy Nova. So this is your full overcoming epic story in the spirit of Rocky, The Blind Side, Rudy meets Forrest Gump. This is the American dream personified in a life. And so these are all the overcoming stories that it took for me to live that dream through so really the memoir is about the power of this mother's love, this unbreakable bond between my family and my siblings, and then me, a starry-eyed kid who refused to give up on his dreams. So I was always a dreamer. You know, my mother made me a dreamer and filled my head that I could do amazing things beyond my circumstances. So it's one of those books that, like, it's for anyone and everyone. It's for anyone who likes an evocative, emotional, heart-filled story. So it is heartwarming. It's heartbreaking.
Oh, wow.
Totally hilarious and full of hope. So it's for people who want to be inspired. And I had one woman recently read it in her 50s, almost 60s. She said, "Your book makes me want to dream again. It makes me want to do the unimaginable, the unattainable." So that was the purpose, is to inspire people never to give up through my story. And it's a story filled with twists and turns and adventures and misadventures. But that's what it's about. It comes out April 30th. It comes out in a couple of weeks with Blackstone Publishing. It will be available wherever books are sold. It's already available now for pre-order on Amazon, Audible. I did the audiobook as well. And it's also on Barnes & Noble. It's wherever you pre-order your books, you can pre-order it now. But it is a moving, evocative read. That's what I can tell you.
Yeah, I seen the trailer to it, and I was as I watched that, I was like, this could be a movie.
It's going to be. That was always the plan. And I have agents in Hollywood that are shopping it right now with different movie producers. And so my vision was always to have it as a movie and as a streaming series, like a Netflix series. Because the story is very episodic in nature. There's many episodes to the story. But you know, the best movies and the best Netflix series are always based on a great book. So I figured the book, and I've been working on the book for like 15 years.
Wow.
Actually, I've been working on it for 50. I'm 61. But I started a diary at 10. And so I kept writing in my diary from the age of 10 into my 20s. So there are many diary entries. Somebody asked if I'm wearing an ascot. It's actually a scarf, and I wear the scarf in honor of my mother. So there's a whole story. You'll have to read the book to understand what Maria's scarf is and what it means and what it's about. And so it's not an ascot. An ascot's a little different. An ascot goes around the whole thing, and you tuck it in there, and it looks very English and proper. This is what you call a short scarf, but it's called Maria's scarf because there's something about the scarf that bonds us together, and so I still wear it in her honor. But yeah, the plan was to always turn it into a movie, and I never imagined when I was writing my diary as a kid that I would ever use those entries for a future book. Yeah, they didn't see the bottom. So there we go. There's the bottom of the scarf.
Yeah.
It has a bottom. But anyway, I'm just commenting to the readers that to the
Exactly.
Exactly.
watching. But yeah, so writing those diary entries, I never planned that they were going to be a memoir. I was just a kid
Yeah.
writing my feelings.
Oh,
But
wow.
some of them will make you laugh, some of them will make you cry, some of them will get you angry, but they will all make you feel deeply. And I'm so glad that I did all those writings because it helped me to chronicle my life. So really, I've dreamt of writing this life story from about 18 when
Wow.
things began to happen for me. And I read over 300 books in the past 15 years to study the craft of writing memoir.
Mhm.
And so it was been an unbelievable amount of work. But now when people read it, even the most hardened people who've read it have been moved by it. So it was worth all the effort that it took to write something that's compelling, that inspires people. That's the goal.
So, of all the memoirs you read, is there any one that kind of stands out that kind of inspired you to keep this thing going?
All of them really. And sometimes I would watch films, like I would watch movies like Invincible or Secretariat or Miracle
Oh,
or The
wow.
Blind Side. And when I would watch those, I would be inspired. But then in the back of my head, I always knew, well, I have a story that's just as good or better. You know what I mean? And so it inspired me in both ways. One, the actual story. Two, that if that could be a movie, so could my story.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because a lot of those movies, honestly, I love them. But like, think about most of the inspirational movies. 98% of them, they're always about athletes. It's always about a football team,
True.
basketball team, a soccer
Yeah.
team. It's never about a musician. Yet
True. You're right. Yeah.
you have just as many inspiring stories, and people all around the world love music.
They
Everybody
do.
loves
Yeah.
music, and everybody's inspired by music. But how come there aren't any overcoming stories about a musician with a dream, just like a kid wants to play basketball with a dream?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when I would watch those, I would go, "It's time for," and I don't mean a movie like the Bohemian Rhapsody, like about a rock band that made
Yeah.
it Queen. I mean like about an individual musician,
Mhm.
who had a dream, who lived that dream, and because we all know Queen and we all know Elvis
Yeah.
and those
We
type
do.
of. There's not even that many of those, honestly, compared to how many sports films there are. And I
Mhm.
love sports
Very
and I love the theme of those films, but I'm like, why doesn't anybody ever make an inspirational movie about a different topic? Or not very frequently anyway, because
Yeah.
it's always about athletes or sports, right? Then I
And,
go,
and when it is music, it's usually the front man, not the drummer.
right, exactly. It's usually like the star we know,
Mhm.
whatever, Billie Holiday, Judy Garland, Frank Sinatra, and that's all great too. But there's so many great musicians that have been
Yeah.
have incredible stories, and why isn't there? But my story is just as epic or overcoming as any of those. In fact, more so because there was a story, the Ben Carson story, and he
Mm.
ran for president a
Mhm.
while ago. His story was called Gifted Hands, and he was raised by a single mom who raised two children, and he became, the first. He became a neurologist, and he became the first guy
Yeah.
to separate Siamese twins from the
Oh, wow.
head, from the brain. Anyway, so he had a movie about his life with Cuba Gooding Jr. playing him, and I thought it was a great story. But I go, okay, your mom raised two children. My mother raised seven, and we had way more hardships, and you have a movie. So when I watched those things, I loved the story, and I was inspired by them. But I was also inspired by, okay, when you see somebody do something, then you go, well, I can do that too.
Yeah.
That something rises up in you when you're. He's asking me what. Ask them to name their top 10 favorite drummers. Okay, what was the question? Top favorite drummers that I like, or that I'm like, or
Says your top 10 favorite drummers.
there's
I
so
guess
many.
I'd name a couple.
Uh, yeah, name a couple. Well, I wrote a series of books called The Commandments of R&B Drumming. That was
Oh,
an
wow.
award-winning series that have been kind of standards in the drum industry. And I talk about, hundreds of drummers from R&B. But I mean, I loved everybody from Buddy Rich, who was a legendary big band drummer, to Ringo Starr from the Beatles, to a studio drummer named Steve Gadd. A lot of the drummers that I liked were kind of drummers. They
Mhm.
weren't so much in famous bands. Like Ringo was part of a famous band. Charlie Watts was in the Rolling Stones. I mean, I loved all those guys, but I tend to like a lot of the studio drummers that had played on thousands of records, but only other drummers know them, and not the general public doesn't
Yeah.
tend to know who
Right.
they are. But I love the drummers of like James Brown and the drummers of Frank Sinatra, and
Right.
I like music
In
more
general.
so than the drummers, and then I
Yeah.
would later find out who the drummers were of these musicians. And I loved a guy named Jeff Porcaro who used to be in the group Toto, but he was a big studio drummer who played on many, many hit records. And there's just so many. I mean, I love any great drummer I've heard, and I've been inspired by all of them.
Right.
And I love the drummers of Elvis. I love DJ Fontana, who played with Elvis in the 50s. And then I loved Ronnie Tutt, who played with them in the jumpsuit era of the 70s, late 60s and 70s.
Mhm.
So there's so many, countless drummers that I love. Like I said, anybody who's good, it's like reading books. Like you asked me about, I mean, when I read memoirs, there's so many great memoirs. I learn from all of them. When I listen to great drummers, I learn from all of them. When I watch great movies, I learn from all of them. I mean,
Yeah.
everything can be inspirational if you're an open vessel, and if you're not judgmental, going, oh, I only like kind of movies, or these kind of books, or these kind of drummers. I mean, I like it all.
You can learn from everybody.
You can.
Learn from everybody. And to me, there's only two styles of music, two types of books, two types of movies, good and bad. There's well-made movies and well-produced records and well-written songs, and lame ones. So anything that's good, I appreciate, and
I guess
love.
lame ones you can learn of what not to do.
I have done that too, because I've seen, how when you watch a movie that's really bad, and all of a sudden you notice that it's really bad, and you know why you notice that it's really bad? Even if you're not a film person or studied film, you intuitively know it's really bad because you're so used to things that are really good.
Yeah.
Oh,
That all of a sudden you go, it's like if you're used to somebody who makes really a good meal, like a good cook. Maybe your buddy's a good cook, and every meal is really good. And then you go to somebody's house who doesn't know how to cook, and you go, oh my God, this is terrible. And you can't really say why. You can't say, well, they don't have enough paprika, or they don't have enough oregano, or there's not enough of this, or you don't really know. You just know it doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your palate instantly discerns it. Well, we're used to such high level movie making and high level books being written that when you see something that isn't high level, your mind and your eye immediately recognizes that this is not good. And when you see somebody acting on TV, that's when you know it's bad, because it looks like they're acting. When it's somebody who's really great, they totally seem real. That seems like a real person, and you never even think they're acting.
Yeah.
But when someone's not that good at it, you go, oh my gosh, they're acting. That looks terrible, right? Because we're used to high level stuff, and we might not be able to say, well, it's not good because the script wasn't good, or the acting, or the producing, but you know it. You know that it's not good. Now, if you know the business more, you'll go, that was terrible writing. There's no good writing in that story, or it's a terrible song because there's just no good singing. There's no good lyric. So we all have been used to high quality stuff, and you can sniff out when something's bad right away. You just might not be able to put your finger on it, like the food thing, but when it's not.
That's just like relationships. You don't. A lot of the women don't know what how good the man is until they've been through the junk ones.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so we all have sort of a radar that of discerning what's good and what's not good. But I'm a forever student of everything. So in order to write my memoir, I studied many memoirs. I studied the craft. I watched many movies. I knew I had a compelling story, but it's like, how do you tell it compelling? How do you tell it in a compelling manner? You could have the greatest story in the world, but if you don't know how to tell it in an emotional, evocative way that it engages people in the characters and the emotion of the story. Here's what I learned about being an artist, because I'm an artist. I'm a drummer, I'm a speaker, I'm a teacher. All these things are artistic expressions. And this is what I've learned. The most important thing that the only job that any artist has, whether you're a painter, whether you're an actor, whether you're anything, you really just have one job, and everyone has the same identical job. And the job is this: to elicit emotion to make people feel something deeply, whether that's hate, like if you're an actor and you're playing like an evil character, I mean, your job is to make people hate you,
Yes.
right?
And some people do it so good when people
Yeah.
get mad at them out and about.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you have when you watch a movie and you just like hate a person, that's when they're doing a really good job because they're getting you to hate them. Or if you read a book and you fall in love with the character, the worst thing in the world is to be lukewarm and mediocre where people don't feel anything.
Yeah.
So as a creative artist, your job is to make people feel something deeply. That could be love, that could be laughter, that could be pain, that could be resentment, that could be bitterness, that could be joy, that could be hope, that could be triumph, but you've got to make them feel something. And that's your job as an artist. So that's what I try to do as a drummer, as a speaker, as a teacher. Everything I try to do, it's like the job is to make people feel something because that's when people feel alive. You know, the mundane and the mediocre doesn't make people feel anything.
Yep.
You know, so that's and the way you get better at that is you immerse yourself in the craft of people who do that well. You know, you if you're a drummer, you have to watch other great drummers that elicit emotion, that make you feel something emotionally. That then you try to learn. Okay, that's the idea, is to make people. It's not just about rudiments and patterns. You know, or it's not just about words on a page. It's about how to arrange those words to make people feel something deeply. And these all are lifelong pursuits, you know, and then you still never learn it all.
You know, that's like I always tell people too, like with marriage. You know, a lot of people, I think one of the big bog downs in marriage is they talk about just the mundane stuff. And granted, you have to talk about the mundane stuff so you're on the same page, but they forget the other side of it. Because I'm always like, don't just talk about the mundane stuff. Talk about the dreams, the goals, the desires, and even the fears.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Talk about all that. You're going to connect on the intimacy level.
Well, and that's just it. It's very easy in life to just get into a routine and to forget the humanity part. I mean, we're all human. We're all struggling with different things emotionally in our lives. You know, we have ups, we have downs, but we're created. Let's see, they're asking, can Zoro do the thing where the drummer spins the drumsticks? Like, I've tried that a million times. I can never figure it out. Yeah, I'm not good at it because I spent more time actually practicing to play rather than twirling sticks. But it's kind of, I just have this simple thing I do. Like, I haven't even done it in years. It's just, you know.
Yeah.
We'll see. I break the lamp too at the same time. But you know, and I say that different people have different techniques to do it. But I do it very infrequently because I always say something like, "Hey, you know, that seldom shows up on a recording of an album."
Right.
Yeah, live, you know. But different people, I've seen different people flip it in different ways, and they've really worked on that for a long time. Wow, this guy says, had the pleasure of meeting Zoro on a flight to Sacramento in the early 2000s. Oh, that's very cool. That brings me to another point. Here's the thing about life to me that's important. It's not success. Achieving something doesn't really mean anything unless you have other people to share it with. And to me, the whole goal of succeeding in life and accomplishing a dream or a vision is to inspire people. And you can't inspire people if you're arrogant. So I look at arrogance like a street sign that says danger, rocks falling. But I look at humility as a street sign that says safe crossing here. And what I mean by that is, like, when I've met heroes of mine that were humble, they made me feel as though what they had, I could also attain. But when I met people that were arrogant, they have an air about them, and they make you feel like you can't ever have what they have. Like there's a distance between you and them. And so to me, when I'm at the end of my life and when I die and when I stand before God, He's going to ask me to give an account of my life. What did you do with the life I gave you? What did you do with the talents and the gifts I gave you? Because no one can say they gave themselves a gift or talent. Because you don't. You're born with them, right? That's why they're called gifts. If we can give ourselves gifts and talents, then everybody would just pick what they want to be. But we don't get to pick it. It chooses us. And then you develop it. You turn it into something. But so I'm not going to be able to say, hey, you know, I was a great drummer and I was this and that. And he's going to go, sit down. That was for free. But what did you do with it? In other words, whose life got better because I lived? How many people did I impact or inspire? How many people, when they met me, had a great encounter with me? So I always try to keep humility in my heart, that everything I have is a gift that I've been given, and one day I'll have to answer for that gift and what did I do with it. And so it was encouraging to see that he said I met him on a plane, and he was really kind to me, because that is my goal. People recognize
He
me
even
all.
said he took a picture with you.
Yeah, and I try to do that too. You know what I mean? Like, if I can, I usually carry extra drumsticks around. So if I meet like a fan, somebody who actually knows who I am, I'm not a recognizable figure like a movie star. I'm only recognizable to other musicians and drummers. A mini celebrity in a world, a
Yeah.
microcosm of the music industry. But in that world, people know me, and I
Yeah.
try to use that platform for good. I try to inspire them. I try to take a picture with them or give them a set of sticks. It doesn't hurt me to do it. And now there's guys like zooming in on this call that remember that in the early 2000s. That's almost
Mhm.
20 some years ago, right? 24 years ago. But to me, that's the whole journey, is about how many people can I impact with my life, and not just my
Yeah.
fame or my platform, but just the encounters that they're
Yeah.
having with me.
Your
And in
daily
fact,
encounter.
Yeah.
daily encounter, and in fact, this is the reason why I wrote Maria's Scarf, my memoir. The reason that I worked past 15 years of doubt, and by the way, it's published by a major publisher called Blackstone, and they're one of the best in the world. They're one of the best at audiobooks. The book is nearly 400 pages. It is so stunningly beautiful. It's amazing. And the thing is, it was turned down like over 100 times in that 15 years. And what kept me going was this: there's only so many encounters I'm going to have with like that guy on the plane in my life before I
Right.
get out of
Yeah.
this world, right? There's only so many one-on-ones. There's only so many speaking engagements. There's only
Yeah.
so many gigs
Mhm.
left, but a book is something, words live on forever. And
Yeah.
look, we're still reading things from 5,000 years ago, 2,000 years
Yeah.
ago, 100 years ago, right? Those words continue to inspire generation after generation. So I thought, what is the thing that I can do to impact and inspire the most amount of people, and in my life, and past my life, and it
Mhm.
is a book,
Mhm.
because the book, these stories will sing long past I'm in the grave. They will continue to touch hearts, and they will continue to, and the audiobook, as long as there's audio available in the world, people will continue to be
Yeah.
inspired. So I thought about, and so what kept me going past all the doubt was I wanted to I wanted to uh do you guys have the book in front of you at all? You probably don't even have it.
No, not yet.
We
So
don't,
what
but
I'm going to do is grab a copy to show you, to show the people,
please
because I
do.
because I can do that, because I have it right here. I have it right here in front of me, but I'm just going to show you, when I said it's a beautiful cover, I want to show you, what that looks like. I'm trying to
Oh,
get
wow.
the right spot. Let's see. It's so hard with this camera thing. So
That's perfect, actually.
We can see it. Wow, it looks great.
it's called Maria's Scarf, a
Mhm.
memoir of a mother's love, a son's perseverance, and dreaming big. And then this is the spine,
Yes.
and this is the back cover. And you
Ah,
can see on the back cover, it's endorsed by everybody from Bob Goff, Dave Ramsey, Joyce Meyer, Alex Van Halen, Lenny
Wow.
Kravitz, tons
oh,
and tons of people. And it's almost 400 pages, and then there's a whole like photo section of my career history, my family history. I even have a Spotify. And then in the front inside cover, this is all the dreams I had as a kid. This is all my childhood
uh,
memorabilia of all the dreams, and there's stories about all these, right?
oh,
And then
wow.
in the back of the book is when the dreams came to life. So these are all the backstage passes and tickets, and so it's really about this kid with this dream. And then we also have like a Spotify. Yeah, it comes out April 30th. Amazon, it's April 30th, so it's in a couple of weeks. And then I also have like a Spotify playlist. So like you click that, and every song that I mention in the
Oh,
book, the exact order
Oh, wow.
is on the
mhm.
Maria Scarf playlist, which means there's over 8 hours of music,
Oh,
and every chapter in the book is named after a song. And that song depicts sort of a theme of my life at that time. So, like, this is called High Hopes, which is a
ah,
Frank Sinatra song about dreaming that my mother used to put on for me. And then there's chapter illustrations at the top of each chapter. There's also at the end, there's a reading guide so people could do it like in their book clubs.
Yeah.
So a book club can study the book, and then use it in their club, So we have very, very poignant questions. So anyway, an enormous amount of work. But anyway, if you feel the cover, it's beautiful. The photos they're raised, they're like embossed and glossy. So I mean, when I see this thing, I just go like, anything is possible, because I'm a guy who never went to school to be a writer, yet I have 6 pages of praise from some very well-known people in the world of writing, music, movies, actors that totally love the book, not because it's me, because they're not the kind of people that are going to endorse it if they don't really love it, but it just proves that if I can do that, people can do anything. All it takes is motivation, and all it takes is determination. But the determination was because I wanted to inspire people, and I wanted to make impact. I have, as a speaker, I have spoken everywhere from San Quentin prison to the jungles of Ghana, Africa, to the worst underprivileged city schools in the world. I am a motivator and a speaker. But I always use my drums as a part of that. So I'll go and perform for the prisoners, and then I'll go speak an inspiring message, because to me, it's like I've been given this amazing platform, and I'm just trying to use it to make a difference. That gives me purpose, because I've met a lot of people that are super wealthy. I used to travel with Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft, the fourth richest guy in the world, Bill Gates' partner. I traveled on his $240 million yacht called the Octopus. I've been with the wealthiest people in the world. I've been with the poorest people in the world. I've seen everything this world has to offer. And I've kind of learned that if you don't have a purpose that's deeper than just success for success's sake, you'll still be empty. There'll still be a void in your life that there's not enough sex, drugs, rock and roll, and fame that could fill it. Because if it could, most of those people who killed themselves or died early from overdose or whatever would have been the happiest people in the world. But the bottom line is, we were really created to serve other people. And if you're not really serving people, and you're only serving yourself, I have never met a self-centered person that was happy. There are no selfish, happy people. So you really find your happiness and your joy. It's that famous old adage, it is better to give than to receive. You actually find life when you give your life away. But when you try to keep your life, which means it's all about you, you become miserable, because you weren't really meant for that. You weren't meant to be worshipped in a way where you're like a god, because you implode, Um, and one guy says, I have hung out with more poor people than rich. Rich people always want to talk about making money. I'm trying to tell. Well, and the thing is, there's never enough.
Right.
If you make your goal just to be rich, or just to be famous, or just to be powerful, there's never enough. It's like no matter what you get, then you got to get the next thing. And what's the next thing? So the important thing is really about serving people. Like that's what Mother Teresa was all about. She goes, and Jackie Robinson said, a life is not important except in the impact it has on others. No life is important unless it's impacting other people. Even if you're famous, even if you're rich, it means nothing. It's about making a difference while you're here. And unfortunately, the lie that Hollywood sells the world is that if you have all these things, you will be happy. And the problem is that is not true. Happiness, comes from, it's an inside thing, and it's not a permanent thing either. We're never always going to be happy. On this side of heaven, we're just living in a natural fallen world where there's all kinds of stuff. You might be happy for a moment, but you can't retain that on any. You can't retain that kind of happiness eternally here on earth. You might have moments of bliss and moments of joy, followed by moments of trials and tribulations. And then you got to learn how to navigate through all that. And the purpose of life is, there's a quote that I use in one of my other books. It says this: the purpose of life is to plant trees under whose shade you never expect to sit.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
That's a good one.
Oh, that's profound.
In other words, like, I've written this book, Maria's Scarf. I may never meet the people that are going to read it. And that was the other reason I wrote a book, because a book can go everywhere. A book can touch hearts of people I'll never meet. I'll never
Yeah.
be in that
Yeah.
town, I'll never be in that city. And so I know that I am going to inspire definitely people while I'm alive with the book, but when
Yeah.
I'm gone,
Mhm.
there'll be a whole crop
Still
of
inspiring.
people that will get inspired. So in other words, I'm planting trees under whose shade I never expect to sit. Other lives will be touched that I'll never know, but if I didn't write the book, I wouldn't be able to touch their lives. And let me
Yeah.
tell you how important story is because, there's that saying, mankind lives off of food, clothing, and shelter. We've heard that all our life, food, clothing, and
Yeah.
shelter.
Mhm.
That's not entirely true. The fourth thing no one ever talks about is mankind lives off of story.
Yep.
Mm.
We cannot survive as a human race without story. Story is how we make sense of humanity. Story is what we do when we watch a movie, when we read a book, when we at work and we tell a story of what happened to me last night at the club or at this or that. We survive off of story. That is how we communicate. That's what makes us human. And story is so important because it's how we form our thoughts about anything. And so I thought, what is the most important thing I can impart to the world is this miraculous, powerful story of what God did through this
Yep.
mother who had faith,
Mhm.
through a kid who had faith, through hard work, through all the trials and tribulations, because that story imparts the power of for other people to dream and believe. Billy Graham had a quote. He said, "When one man shows courage, he stiffens the spines of others."
Yep.
So,
Good.
you see, if you're in a war and everybody, you're in a war and everybody's, all your colleagues are sitting there and they're scared to death and nobody's making a move, you got one guy that gets up and decides to take the hill. All of a sudden, the other guys will charge and follow.
Yep.
So, we need forerunners in life. We need people that are going places that other people haven't gone. We need somebody to be the first person to do this, to tell this story, to write that, because then it inspires us, the rest of us that are listening, that are looking, that are watching, to go, man, if Zoro could do it, I could do it too. Because I've read so many, when I was a kid growing up in the 70s, they used to have this little newspaper in school called the Weekly Reader. And in the back,
Mhm.
you could order books from Scholastic Books, and they'd be 50 cents. These paperback books would be like on football stars like Jim Brown, O.J. Simpson, Wilt Chamberlain, the superhero, Joe Namath, the sports heroes of the day. And even though I wasn't athletic oriented, their inspiring stories made me dream. So when I would read how O.J. Simpson would walk up to Jim Brown and say, "One day I'm going to break your record of the,"
Mhm.
that gave me chutzpah. And then I started to think, well, I'm going to be like that. I'm going to say things.
And didn't OJ have issues with his legs where doctors basically said he'd never walk or run like other people?
That I don't remember, but I do know that Wilma Rudolph, that was told to Wilma Rudolph, the Olympic runner who won in the 60s, she was told that she would never walk again. And in
Oh,
her
wow.
story, she says, "My mother said I would, and I believed my mother." So that's the power. The power of words is the most powerful thing we
The
have.
power of a mom.
Yeah, well, and the power of a mother because it's the words she's
Mhm.
speaking, right? So in Wilma Rudolph's case, the mom said, uh, uh, it says Jim Brown and O.J. Simpson both, rest in peace, Jim Brown and O.J. Simpson, both within the past 18 months. Yeah, well, we all have a limited time. I always say, life is a limited time offer. For a limited amount of time, God offers you life. A limited amount. There is an expiration date for all of us. So
Mhm.
words are the most powerful thing that all of us carry because words are what shapes and changes lives for the good or the better. So in Wilma's case, she had this crippling disease, and the doctor said she would never walk, and her mother said she would. At the end of the introduction of my book, I say something like, this introduction is very prolific. It's very powerful. I'm on stage playing for nearly 1 million people in Washington, D.C. in front of the monument for 4th of July, 1985. I'm playing with a group called the New Edition, and they were like the Jackson 5 of the 80s. So they were the
Yeah.
biggest thing. Anyway, so I create this poignant scene. And then at the end of that introduction, I say, "The world said I would never amount to anything.
Mhm.
My mother said that all things are possible to those who believe. I believed my mother. This is our story." and then I go into the book. And the reason my story came out the way that it did is because my mother said that I would do phantasmical things. That's the word she used. She made up her own word. She was half Mexican and half, I mean, I'm half Mexican and half Irish, but she spoke English, but she also was from Mexico. So she just kind of have a mixture word she called
Yeah.
phantasm.
Yeah.
She said I would do something phantasmical with my life. Those are words. I believe those words. And not because it looked like it was going to happen, because in the natural realm that I was living in, none of those things ever looked like they were going to happen. But that's
Yeah.
what faith is. That's what the power of words are. So the most powerful thing we have in this world as we go around every day, day to day, the most powerful way we can change the world around us is just by speaking kind and affirming words to all those we come in contact with, whether it's at the grocery store, the gas station, where you work. Words have power, and they change and forge destinies for the good or the bad. And you don't have to be somebody famous. You don't have to be a Billy Graham. You don't have to be a president. You don't have to be a rock star. Just got to be a person who goes, hey, I can make a difference everywhere I go by just speaking kind and affirming words. Because you don't know when someone's on their last breath, man. When all they
No.
need is another negative word and they're going to go postal. All they need is another positive words and they might come up with the cure for cancer. Words are the most powerful. Rudyard Kipling, the author of the Jungle Book, he said this. He goes, words are, of course, the most powerful drug known to mankind.
Mm.
And I remember Henry Ford. Remember Henry Ford once said, "If you say you can or can't, you're right."
Exactly. And that, exactly. If you say you can or you can't, you're right. Because words are more powerful than drugs. Because if you think about it, every massively evil dictator used words to dupe people,
Yep.
to distort their thinking, got them hypnotized with words to get them to kill and murder. And every war was ended with words. Every peacemaker used words to end wars. Everything we do or don't do is established by words that we speak to ourselves in our own heart, or words other people speak to us that we believe or don't believe, right? So don't underestimate the power of your words. I mean, the Bible says it straight up. That in the beginning, God created. God said, "Let there be light."
And there it
He didn't
was.
say, I sat around for 1 trillion years and created light. He just said everything in the Bible. God says it, and then it comes to pass. We're very similar. We say things and then we do them. I'm going to marry her. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to do this. Whatever we do, we say it first.
Mhm.
And then that speaks something into motion, into the atmosphere, right? So that's why I wrote Maria's Scarf. Was here are the words that I'm going to share with people to impart to them a story that will leave you hopeful, that will get you to speak the right things to yourself, to the
Yeah.
people around you, and to realize that never give up. That's what I
Mhm.
usually write when I sign the book. I say never give up.
Love that.
Yeah.
Never count yourself out.
You were talking earlier about giving drumsticks out to people. I got a great story for you of our little one, and Sandy, go get him.
I'll go get him
while
when
I
you
tell
tell
the
the story.
story.
Yep.
Our first trip to Nashville, we were about to walk on Broadway, but we were in front of Honky Tonk Central. And this guy comes out of Honky Tonk Central and hands little Chris a drumstick and says, a guy in there, drummer, says he wants you to have this. Other kids around don't know why, but little Chris was the one that they said that to. So we thought that was pretty cool. Remember, this first night we ever visited Nashville. So we walk across the street and we're listening from the sidewalk at Dirk Bentley's bar, bro. And we're listening, and the woman singer there looked out the window and saw little Chris holding a drumstick. And she goes to the window and says, how would you like to play a song with us? He's like, yeah. So they drug him through the window, put him on the drums with the other drummer. So he got to hit the drums with them while they sang Summer '69.
Wow. How awesome.
And that was our first visit to Nashville.
That'll make you come back again. Like that was very serendipitous and magical. That's amazing.
What was funny is every time we visit, he would hold a drumstick up, hoping to repeat.
It will happen again. Yeah,
he's had it happen 2 other times.
See, well that's faith, man. When you walk around expecting. Hey, how you doing, man?
Hey, Zoro. So, what's your favorite foods?
Say again.
What's your favorite foods?
Favorite foods? Oh man, I like a lot of food. I like cheese. I like sushi. I like pizza. I love Italian. I mean, styles. I love Italian. I love Japanese. I love Chinese. I love Indian food. Man, I just love food. I'm a foodie. I enjoy. Once I was asked when I was a teen star in all the teen magazines when I was with New Edition Brown, and one of the things they asked me is like, "What are your two favorite foods?" And they still remain my top two. And if they were healthy, I would eat them every day and one after the other. Pizza and ice cream.
Because what's yours?
Pizza.
Like who doesn't like pizza? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's probably, as I've traveled around the entire world, I think the food that I can find almost anywhere in the world is pizza of some kind. You might not find other foods all over the world that are global, but I've almost been able to find pizza like everywhere. And people like ice cream too, and so unfortunately they're both filled with calories and they're both filled with sugar and carbs. So if I only ate that, I'd be like the most unhealthy person in the world. But I do love them. I just try to limit them.
All right. So what's your favorite car?
Favorite car? I've never really been a car guy,
really?
but I have been to a couple of vintage car shows.
Mm.
I kind of like old cars. I don't even know the makes and models of them, but I really dig some of those old like sports cars, those old cars from the 60s, just the really small
He
one.
went to 70 Corvette.
Oh, okay, the Corvette. But
from
they're,
the 70s.
those are cool.
Oh, yeah.
But there's so many. I don't even know the names of them, but they would have been in these movies like with Elvis, Yeah, a guy here says pizza isn't a traditional Italian dish. It was an American serviceman returning from Italy with stuff they saw, and they adopted it to start pizza. Well, that's cool. Whoever made it, the whole world must thank them because we all eat it now. Right? How about when there was no Reese's peanut butter cup and some guy decided that chocolate and peanut butter was going to be like a good thing? And man, I'm glad it's a great combo, right? But yeah, I love cool old sports cars, but like I said, I don't know the makes and models of them, but it's those really cool, sharp little ones that are, like from the 60s a lot. I like a lot of those cars from the 60s. They just made beautiful cars.
All right. That's all my questions.
Okay. I hope that was sufficient.
So I know we only got a couple more minutes with you. So any final kind of words?
Yeah, I would say, to everybody out there, just never count yourself out. Never stop dreaming. Always grow and always learn. We can grow until we go, and try to do your best every day to make a difference. And surround yourself around people you love and people who you love. Those are the most important things. And then if you want to be inspired by my book, it's called Maria's Scarf. You can pre-order it right now on Amazon, Audible, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, wherever books are sold. It'll be out in 2 weeks. Go to your local bookstore now and ask them to bring it in. And then when you read it, I would be thrilled and honored if you guys would post a review wherever you post reviews, which is, Amazon, Goodreads, BookBub. I wrote this for you and everyone watching. I wrote it for the people, and I hope that it will inspire you like crazy. And thank you, Chris and Sandy, for the honor and privilege of being on your show.
Well, we love it. Like you were talking about purpose earlier, to me, this show is part of our purpose because we get to bring people on you to share your stories, because, our whole tagline is up close and personal, because we don't, we bring artists, actors and all that. And although we talk a little bit about music, that's not what our show is about. Our show is about the person.
About life, yeah.
The stories, yeah.
Because our art is only one aspect of us. First of all, we're all human beings, and we all have the same fears and challenges in common. It's the human experience, and so the art is just like what we do, but who we are is the person.
Exactly.
So, and that's what makes us human. Is we got to share our experiences, and we're all just trying to make it through this thing. It's a rough deal. It's hard being human. It's filled with discouragement, but we need to find people to keep us. And that's why we have to feed ourselves. We develop an appetite for whatever we feed ourselves. So feed yourself positivity, feed yourself inspirational things, because the world's going to feed you the opposite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you looked at my library, it's filled with books that inspire me, and I don't watch the news because that doesn't inspire me.
Ain't that the truth?
Yes.
I read things that keep my heart hopeful. You gotta brainwash yourself to remain hopeful. Otherwise, you'll be pessimistic and jaded like everyone else.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Maria's scarf.
Well, we definitely
Love it.
appreciate you coming
Yes,
on,
thank you
and
for
I don't
your
want to go over
time.
our time,
Yes.
Right.
and all that, but we
Right.
appreciate you coming
We
on.
do.
And everybody that's watching, just be sure to go get his book, order it, order a couple copies if you got friends that would
Yes.
benefit from it. And we appreciate y'all.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Chris and Sandy, for being a guest on your show. Take care and God bless. Good luck and everything.
All right, same to you.
Same to you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.